Hey guys, welcome back to Avolites Lighting Training. My name is Bryson. We'll be talking through shapes today with you. So Avolites has some built-in shapes on a function called the shape generator. And so today I'll be on the Avolites Titan Go interface on the computer. So if this is applicable to you, you can do it on there, or if you have a console, all the buttons will be the same, just might be in different places. So shapes are any action or any like attribute that is like turning off and turning on cyclically. So meaning like I can turn my flashlight on and off like that. Technically that's a dimmer shape. But there are a ton of different ways that you can use this in your songs. So let's get right into it. I'm going to be using this today. We've got capture going, and let me just grab a couple of my moving lights right here, different groups, couple groups. We've got the R2s and the force profiles. And then over here on our main menu on our buttons, button D is shapes and effects. There are several different types of shapes, and we'll have different videos on those, but today we're on shape generator. And we can't edit any shape yet because we don't have any shape in our programmer. It'll appear under effects. So I'm gonna hit create, and then let's go through the different types of shapes. Whenever you get into the shape generator, by the way, it'll pull up the shape window. They're not well organized here because they're not in groups. It's kind of hard to figure out unless you know exactly what you're looking for. These are just in alphabetical order. But over here on our main menu, we've got categories. So dimmer is kind of like what I showed on my flashlight a little while ago. It's just anytime a light is dimming on, dimming off, that's a dimmer shape. Pan and tilt is, tilt, pan for moving fixtures only. So if your fixture has movement, your lighting fixture has movement, then you'll be able to use those shapes. Color shapes, it's pretty self-explanatory. If your light has the ability to do color, so like an RGB fixture, CMY, something like that, you can use the color shapes. Gobo, essentially that's spinning the Gobo wheel. I'll try to show you that today in the capture, but more than likely I might not be able to. Beam is anything that has zoom. It will zoom in and out, and effects are any special effects that the light might have that can be controlled by a shape. More than likely, most of the time you're gonna live in dimmer, pan and tilt, maybe color. I like beam shapes sometimes, but more than likely, you're not gonna use these bottom ones a whole lot. The preset shapes are great for quick on the fly, like I need to make these moving lights go in a circle, and they have that shape already built for you, and you can edit the attributes. So let's look at that. I'm gonna do dimmer shape real quick. So I'm gonna click on dimmer. There are a handful of different types of dimmer shapes. Dimmer spread looks like a sine wave. So like, this is not a great way of explaining it, but it kind of, instead of hitting the top harsh, it hits the top smooth. So like when you dim on, the light's gonna dim on smoothly and then dim off smoothly, if that makes sense. I'll show you that on the capture right here. So I'm gonna do a dimmer spread. Sometimes this will pop up if your fixtures have sub fixtures, meaning like the R2s, they have rings, like the outer ring of pixels, the center ring, middle ring of pixels, and then there's a center dot. So if I wanted it to go on those separate sub fixtures, I could click either sub fixtures linear or sub fixtures groups, which will go off of the group reference. I'm not gonna get into that today. That will be more on the pixel mapper video whenever I get around to that. So let's just do super fixtures, and you can see they're all dimming together. Now we can edit the different attributes of that. I'm gonna go into this in a second, but you can see that on this specific shape, dimmer spread, it's hitting the top very smoothly and hitting the bottom very smoothly. So I'm gonna hit clear on that, and we're gonna show you some of the other ones. Let me go back to that menu, create dimmer. Dimmer salt is going to be a more harsh dim, so a little more choppy there. And this is a sawtooth wave. If you know music, it's just doing this on the lights. So let's do this one more time. There's one more set of shapes that we can do on dimmer, and it's pulse. And basically that's just on and off. And so let me show you that. There is no dimming there. It's just pulsing, pop, 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 like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to our menu here, and you can see that there's different sets of pulsings and like at different rates, 3 to 1, 2 to 1, 1 to 3, that kind of thing. There's also dimmer step up and step down. So if you have a dimmer value in your programmer, like say you have it at 50% and you want to go a step up, so it could step from 50 to 100 and back down to 50. If you want to do that, you can also just do that on a normal dimmer shape. So I don't typically use those a lot. Dimmer strobe is just like a very fast pulse for strobing things. And there's also dimmer additive, dimmer subtractive. It's very similar to a spread. I'm not really going to show those today, but feel free to play around with them. I typically use these three: spread, saw, and pulse, just depending on what I want. But right now I'm going to show you how to edit a shape on a spread. So on your wheels, these things will pop up down here: speed, size, and spread. And there's also several other menus that you can see. So you can see where it always pops us to adjust speed, size, and spread. There's also adjust beat and cycles, and then adjust phase, spread, and offset. So what I do typically first is I always set the BPM of my song so I can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. So let's just say the BPM of this song is 100. And so I typed in 100, I clicked on speed, typed in 100. It'll auto, like the auto option, if you hit enter, is set speed to 100 seconds. I like to set it in BPMs because most of the time, if you get a song, you're gonna know the BPM. You're not gonna necessarily know the speed per second. So that's just what I do. Okay, so now we see that they're flashing at 100 BPMs per second, or that oxymoron, at 100 BPM. Size will determine how bright the light gets. So like, since their dimmer is on, this is kind of like a dimmer step up or step down, except a spread. Since their dimmer is at 100, whenever I set the size to 25, it's essentially dimming it by 25% and then bringing it back up to 100. Now, if I took the dimmer down to 0, it's now going to go from 0 to 25. That's what size means on a dimmer. On a shape that's like a pan and tilt, that's like how wide the shape goes, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So let's see, I'm gonna go just like 50. I'm gonna type that in real quick, 50%. And now spread is how many groups of fixtures are doing the same thing at the same time. So say I want like 2 of them to be going on at the same time. So like bop, 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 like that. If I do this 2, so it's doing 2 separate groups, and it looks kind of fast, but it's going back and forth like that. And you can see as I increase the number, there are different groups, and the further you get, the more like wavy it gets. I don't really have a correct terminology for that, but it acts as if there are 23 separate fixtures that are all doing different things. But since we only have like 12, the max that you could do, and they all be doing different things in this case, is 12. And so this looks fairly random, but I typically, I don't know, it depends on the song. I kind of like a 4 or a 6. 4 is good if you're like in 4/4 time and you can kind of get a poppy feel. Now, this looks a little fast, and it is a little fast, even for 100 BPM. So now we're gonna move to our adjust beats and cycles, and then we can change the beats to 4. So now this is going to go on 4/4 time, like bump, 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 bump. There's always going to be one light going on every beat. And I might not have lined that up correctly, but you get the idea. And so if you want it to go slower, just increase your beats So like I always multiply it by 2 if we're in 4 times. So if you multiply 4 by 2, that's 8. And so now you've got half time, and then you multiply that by 2, you get 16, and that's quarter time. So now that's really slow. If we got a slower song that just happens to have 100 beats per minute and it's like played in halftime, that'd be a good thing to do. Or if that's even too fast for you, you could go 32 and 64 and so on. So that's how you do that. I'm gonna drop that back down to 4. And the other thing on that menu is cycles. It's how many times the shape runs for. If you want it to run continuously, leave it on infinity. But if you want it to only go like 4 times, so like it fades through the whole shape 4 times and then it stops, it stays on the value that you have set on your dimmer or position or whatever it is. Most of the time you're gonna leave that at infinity because you'll have it built into a cue or something like that. So, and then there's also phase. Phase could be cool if I use it on movement shapes and stuff. I can kind of show you how I'd use it. Offset is where in the shape cycle it starts. So if I offset it by 90, essentially it is starting a quarter of the way through the shape. Now it's kind of hard to see that on a dimmer shape. It would be more evident if you had like a circle and they start here. And instead of starting here, you'd have them start here as a quarter of the way through the circle. That's the best way I know to explain that. So anyway, that's dimmer shapes. And let me show you some movement shapes real quick. I'm going to locate these just so we can see them. Create, pan and tilt. So there's a lot more options. Again, we have the terminology of saw. Again, sawtooth wave for pan and tilt. If you ever see anything say swing, it's basically like the same terminology for spread. It's just going to, instead of going like this, it's going to take a little more flowy action to the movement. So there's that. Circle is exactly what it says. It's a circle. It's going to go like a very wide pan and tilt action. Spiral is a spiral, so it starts really slow circles and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden it snaps back into the center. That one's a little harder to use, but that's what it does. Random is literally random movement. Very hard to use, so use it at your own risk, I would say. Tilt and pan saw, exactly what you think they would be. Tilt saw like this, pan saw like this, but very sharp movements on the edges of that shape. Like I explained what swings are, same thing for pan and tilt. Square is like a circle, except it's got hard edges. So it's gonna move up and then over and then down like that. And then a diamond is the same thing as a square, that they're just tilting it on its side. So it starts at a point, goes up and over, up and over, up and over, and down and over, or down and over the second time as well. So let me back up. Let's get a circle. It's the most applicable of any shape. And now you see this is kind of wide. Also, I didn't have the lights tilted up very far, so it doesn't lend itself to a good circle. We can edit this with the speed, the size, all of these will affect it. But first things first, I want to put my lights in kind of like a more out there position so that they have a larger area to go. It's still too large though. So the first thing I do on movement shapes is I pull that size down until I can actually see what looks to be a circle. And also I realized that I didn't put my R2s on a good position either. Really, they need to be more down. Okay, so now we got a circle. Okay. And it still even is a little bit too wide. So I might pull that down just a little bit more so that you can actually see like a good looking circle. It is blowing out our digital camera here, so I'm sorry, but you can see the lights highlighted and still see them moving. And let's just say we're at 100 beats per minute. When I type this in, these lights are gonna go wild, just be forewarned. So when I type in 100 beats per minute, you see they're going plumb crazy. This is where the beats and cycles come in. Your beats and cycles, your beats might not always be the same for a dimmer shape as they are a movement shape. So like if I type in 4, that's still a little fast even, but I was using the dimmer shape at 4 and it looks fine. So let's go 8. That's a little better. Most of the time 16 or 32 looks better for my form of movement shapes for like worship music and stuff. So you can see that looks better. Now, you're probably not ever going to do like one big circle all at once with all your shapes. So let's do like a 4 on the spread. And now you can see this is a more typical like circle shape that you might see this in concerts or something like that. Big, wide, you're washing the crowd, all that. And it looks good. I like how this looks. And just like any other attribute, you can record these shapes into a cue list, into a queue. Check out my video on recording and the programmer if you want to know more on that. But you can see it does light up the programmer down here, and I had done some position stuff earlier. Some other things that you might need to know about this menu, just while we're on it, is you can edit shapes. So you can select which shapes, because you can have multiple shapes in your programmer, but you can only edit one at one time. So like if I went and let's just say I go and do a dimmer spread real quick on super fixtures and do 100 and then set the spread to 4. This is like something that you might typically do, is have shapes layered upon each other. So now that looks pretty cool. But say I want to go back and edit my position shape. Also my size, I forgot to edit that. Then you have to hit edit, the A button shape, and then click the circle, and then hit exit. And you can go back and now we're editing the circle shape. You can also delete shapes from here. So if I wanted to delete that programmer dimmer spread, then I hit enter and it would delete it. So it's no longer doing that. You can also set the direction of shapes. Direction is cool if you want, instead of going from left to right, or you can do right to left. Or if you have some pixel stuff set up, you can do that as well. So you see like it kind of rearranged the way that they go. This might be easier if I show you on a dimmer shape. So let's grab all those real quick. Okay, I don't know that I have pixel mapping stuff set up on this yet, so we'll go over that more in the pixel mapping video. But let's just take that spread way out here and turn their dimmer off so you can see it. So you see generally it's going left to right right now, and that's the preset for direction. But if we do right to left, you can also do up and down, but because I don't really have Pixel Mapper set up well, it's not going to do that. So yeah, not a very good demonstration here, but, and then this is from top left to bottom right, top right to bottom left, and so forth. Those start in the middle circle. This is a quick and easy way to make pixel shapes. I will go over that in the pixel video. Don't worry about it. So anyway, that's the basics of shapes in the shape generator. And like I said, you can do color. This is a very easy way to get like a color rainbow macro going on. So just like that, just like you would do any other shape. I encourage you to go find all this stuff out for yourself. So like play around with these, like see what you like. On the shape generator, color, all these color shapes, they act like you're adding in color or taking away color, kind of like a dimmer attribute. So I advise that if you want a very specific color shape, hang out and watch the keyframe shapes video. That's how I make all my color shapes, because it just makes more sense to use a palette to create your color shapes, and the only way to do that is a keyframe. So anyway, that's that. I kind of explained all the other shapes. I will show you just like a beam and a gobo shape real quick, just what those look like. So it kind of just shakes the gobo wheel. Cool, I guess. I mean, if you want to use it, be very careful because it kind of looks a little erratic. But let me delete that. Okay, and let's go get us a beam shape. And these have a lot of different options. Most likely you might have a zoom. So zoom flick up would be a good option. So it's going to flick the zoom in and out. And even that looks kind of bad on this, this thing right here, this capture. But like if I spread this out, you can see how that could be useful. Let me give it a 104. Yeah, and then like you could play with the beam shape to give it different attributes like that. Yeah, so you can see how that could be useful. I use those sometimes, very marginally though. And so yeah, that's basically all the shapes. And like you see effects, these don't have very special effects that a shape could modify with the effects button. So really and truly, you're gonna be using dimmer, pan and tilt more often than not, occasionally a color shape. Gobo and beam, probably almost never, but they're there if you want to. So I would feel free to play around, like I said, and learn these things. The shape generator is great for not specific things. If you just want to throw a circle on real quick or throw a dimmer on real quick, so that you don't have to build it every time that you want it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for learning with me, and come back and watch the keyframe shape video, which I should be filming very soon. So have a great day, and I'll see you later.